This is the Fearless Experience with Brendan P. Keegan. Conversations with leaders who provide valuable, candid insights from their journeys and share their secrets to what made them successful and fearless.
Today's fearless leader is Shelton Mercer III. Shelton has built, scaled, and exited multiple venture-backed companies. He leads at the intersection of innovation, capital, and purpose, helping corporations, cities, and founders turn bold ideas into ecosystems that drive outcomes. Shelton, welcome to today's episode of the Fearless Experience.
Thank you, Brendan. Pleasure to be here with you and excited to have this conversation.
All right, so we're going to go all over the place during our time today, but you know what? I want to start with the exit or your exits and success. So you've built and exited multiple companies. When you strip away the headlines and you strip away the valuation and all the exciting things people like to talk about it, how did you make it happen?
Well, you know, every founder's got their journey and their story, right? So it's always fraught with you've got the highs and you've got the lows. And I tell people all the time, if you're going to get significant value and obviously liquidity and capital events in your life, it's not going to come overnight. Contrary to what seems to be happening in the zeitgeist now, where you get on and see somebody else has built a multi-hundred or billion-dollar AI company in a matter of months. Journey with Audigent was about 8 years for us, and as you mentioned, I've built other companies and been able to move those, but I've had failures as well. So, you know, I tell people you need to get on base a few times. If you can get some singles and turn those into triples, and then maybe get a home run now and then ever so often you might get a grand slam like we did with Audigent. Certainly the acquisition by Experian in 2024, late 2024, was a culmination of a lot of efforts from me and my co-founders. Building that company, grinding it out, you know, making early deals in 2015, 16, you know, raising capital from ourselves and our friends and family first, and then until you get to that place where you've got some institutional dollars in there. And I think, you know, for Audigent, it was a kind of a place where we were building, had something significant, and then was able to do something I've done with all the companies that have been pretty successful for me, is finding strategic investors early. When we're looking at that type of building a company at scale, you've got to have not just the capital to go, but you got to have access to customers. You've got to have a marketplace. And we were able to turn that into a sizable company. Audigent became, and still is, it's a wholly owned subsidiary of Experian now. And it is the top audience management and monetization for every genre of content and makeup. So every genre of music, film, television, brands, all those are using our platform to monetize audience data, and AI and blockchain powering a lot of the tech. And so for that glory story at the end comes with years of trying to make payroll, of trying to make sure you've got the right team in place, of hiring and firing, of sweat palms and late nights of, okay, are you going to be able to meet the demands of vendors or even your customers? Every founder understands that those are going to be the journey. And so I certainly look at it as there's a mix of that type of resilience that's necessary, but there's also the type of fearlessness, as your podcast is called, being willing to go into markets where people say perhaps you're not ready to go to, being able to take those types of long play risks that will be able to set you up for success later. Those are all hallmarks of my career, and nothing different with what we were able to do with Audigent.
That's awesome. So, you know, I've had a chance to have some exits in my career as well. And one thing that I've noticed in exits, you know, amongst my team members is some people change after an exit. You know, some people don't. So after you've had multiple exits and one extremely successful exit, was there anything that changed with you or your identity, or like, was the cowboy hat pre-exit, post-exit? Like just tell me, like, Like, did anything change, or, for the positive or negative, or just, just tell me some thoughts about, you did the exit, and what was next for you personally?
Yeah, well, the cowboy hats have been a part of me for a while. So, I think some inspiration from Beyonce bring it back led in the late years here. Cause she can do Cowboy Carter, I do Cowboy Mercer. It's all fun.
Okay.
I love having some style. Western style has been part of me. But that's part. But listen, when you have a major event in your life, like again a liquidity event like that, there's everyone who says, "Oh no, everything stays the same," is probably they either are a robot or they're lying through their teeth. And the biggest thing for me, first thing was, let's actually take a minute to exhale. When you're putting those boulders uphill, you're trying to get those rockets to the launch pad, which I compared, building companies that way. There is a lot of effort you're expending over many, many years, sometimes trying to make it to that next level. And there's nothing about an exit doesn't mean that you're done. To me, it's not a finish line. It's like a graduation, a commencement, if you will, for the next thing. What I did differently for this one, though, is normally I would, move a company or move an asset or get a milestone, and then you show me the next thing. Let me do the next one. For this year, for 25, I took some time. I actually I spent about a month at the beach, which was really good for me and my spirit and my lungs and my mentality, if you will. And then I spent some real time to think about, what do I want to have next, not because I have to do it, but because I want to do it. And what we've been able to do is spend some time with my team. I have some folks that have been working with me for a long time through many different ventures and many different projects. Told all of my I have a consulting practice that I've had for years. We told all of our clients, we're going to pause working for you at the beginning of 25, because I need to figure out how to marshal the resources that are my team to focus on my vision, my passions. And so it can sound a little bit self-absorbed, but there's a bit of time when I think as a leader, you need to find those moments to focus on, what do you want to do and what fuels your passion and desire, and not be driven by what you have to do. And so that's probably the biggest lesson I learned, is to take some rest, to reset, recharge, and then to refocus on what's next. And so for me, I've been building a leadership community for many years through many different iterations over my career. And what we've been able to do this past year is to focus on, how do I take my personal passions and turn those into a brand that is marketable, but also how do I leverage my community of people, leaders, CEOs, celebrities, high net worth folks, community leaders, policy leaders, and bring them together in very real ways. And so what I've done this year is been able to travel throughout the nation and actually through the world, convening leaders for some wonderful mini summits, 1 day summits around the world, which I can talk about a little bit later. But the passion of focusing on my community of leaders, that I did not have the type of real time and frankly resources to do it my way. That's probably been the biggest change. And then the second part is just tapping in with my family. My kids are my life. They're my favorite. My favorite title is dad. And so being able to spend extra time with my son and daughter that we haven't been able to do in some years has been really, really rewarding for me. And right now the focus is continue that type of momentum with both with family and with this new venture.
So the takeaway, I think, for our audience is, pause, rest, kind of relax, if you will, recover, and then marshal your resources. So you got a lot of R's in there for that next great opportunity. But you also kind of slipped in there, and I want to bring it back. Part of recovery was like reconnecting or spending more time with your kids and your family. So talk to me about, like, so now you're getting ready to climb that mountain again, to go back out there to not settle and have a great impact again. How do you do that? And how does your family play into that, as you look at, you mentioned your vision, going after your vision in this next round?
Yeah, my son and daughter, Noel and TJ, are, as I mentioned, my favorite thing is to be dad. They're my best startups. ever. They've been the most, they've been given the most return over the years. Noelle is they're both Ivy League grads and both with honors. Noelle from Yale, TJ from Penn. She's in front of the camera, he's behind the camera. Together, I mean, Noelle's been traveling with me, both of them this year. Last year, we traveled to cities around the nation, and she was like my creative director around some of the content we were capturing. My son's been with me with various. So we've been doing these roundtables with some of our corporate partners, and he's come into some of our cities and taken video and film and cut up some nice pieces for us. So we're working together where they're supporting. They've always been a part of the things I've been doing. And then now as adults, they've been able to tap in their own creative ways, and I can rely on them. My daughter's a social media guru. I can tell her, say, listen, help me figure out how I get the right wording and the right timing to post these posts. And matter of fact, why don't you and your team just do it for us? And she's been great with that type of strategy. And then with TJ, being able to help with content capture, if you will, video and film and pictures. So that's been a real fun thing. I think the next thing for us is just figuring out as they launch their careers into the world, as I become helping them as I've been their whole lives. Now working together as a family, there's a whole content side that I be able to tap into where they're both gurus at, and I'm the student now. Now I have to rely on these experts to show me how to get the right capture and the right strategy to make sure our content is seen by folks. So that's been probably a big thrill for me is being able to let them take the lead, and now I become kind of that person who's been used to being in front in the lead. Now I'm following their expertise, and it's such a thrill to do that.
Okay, so now you mentioned your daughter Noelle, social media expert. Now, does she have her own company that takes on clients outside of you?
She does. She has Soel Socials. She and her dear friends and a partner and they're based in LA. They've been powering brands and social media presence for a while. They have their own channel where they're actors. Both of them are actors, and she's a singer and a brand spokesperson. So her social media is a whole other. She's got a couple million followers across her platform. She's taken off that regard, but that advisory practice is a part of what she does as well.
That's great. That's great. I just wanted to get a little plug in there for her, for the kids. So one of the things, when I first found out about you and I was learning about you, you talked about virtuous leadership, virtuous innovation. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that? And when has it worked? When hasn't it? Or maybe it's failed? Or can you just talk to us about that concept?
Yeah, I launched a public benefit corporation right on the heels of the kind of the wake of the pandemic in 2020. One thing I found that there's a thing about power that we are so obsessed with in our culture right now, Brendan, and it is I've seen that, and I think we're all seeing it. The way that power is wielded in our culture today has become so zero sum. It's become, I have to win. In order for me to win, you have to lose. I just really believe that, yeah, we got to be competitive. We have to be on top of our game. We need to be looking at the field and making sure that our competitors and that we're able to be actually in the arena rather. But we don't have to be at this place where if I'm going to be the guy on top, Brendan, you've got to totally be flame out and lose. There's enough space in the marketplace for a variety of ideas and success, if you will. I've been very fortunate to have a community of leaders around the world that I've built through my results in business and humanitarianism and advisory work over the years. And so that influence has allowed me to see the field a little bit differently, that there's a way to bring community together where leaders in particular can be in community and that they can have some commonality that's going to take them to the next level. It's not even just transactional, it's about relationship. And so for virtuous innovation, which is now evolving into more of our outcomes-based piece, we've been looking at ways that we can bring leaders together around various challenges, whether it's in industry or even more importantly, lately we've been doing things in cities and regions across the world where leaders who live, work, and play in the same geographic area regardless of the genre of business they're in. They could be a Fortune 100 C-suite leader, to a community organizer rather, to a policy leader. What brings us together is proximity. And so even as I sit in my hometown, Philadelphia, there's something about, I look at I got the Comcast here and some of the big corporations. I can bring a C-suite leader together from a Fortune 50 and a policy leader and an academic leader into the same room and talk about challenges that they're having in their city and region, and bring them together for some ideas and ideate for them to find solutions. So we've been going to cities doing what I call activate days. We go one city, one day, 100 leaders. We bring them together for a C-suite roundtable at lunchtime. We do a 2-hour ideation. We feed them very well, and we have them come up with ideas around my 8 pillars for innovation outcomes. And they come up with ideas that they pitch to the rest of the room. And then those ideas are captured and we present them later at a cocktail event with a wider group of leaders and say, for instance, in towns like Philadelphia, New York City, where you are, LA, we've got other cities like Atlanta and San Francisco we've been to. They're all hosting the World Cup this year. LA has the Olympics next year. You were just in San Fran and Santa Clara for the Super Bowl, and they've got the World Cup coming this year. And so we're saying all of that investment and interest that's happening in your city, what if there was a plan to activate those resources beyond the event, after the World Cup is over, after the Super Bowl ends? How is that place? How is San Fran and LA and Atlanta and Kansas City and Miami and Philly and Boston? How are they going to benefit for the citizens, people who live, work, and play there for 10 years to come, for 25 years to come, because this once in a generation event is in your city? And we don't want those resources to just go to a bunch of marketing and a lot of visiting and tourism. We want people that live, work, and play in those cities to have 25-year outcomes that can look back and say that investment was used wisely, that once the event was over, this city is still thriving and had a boost from that event, rather than the drain and the drag that we see from some of the previous World Cups or Olympics where there's waste, fraud, and abuse. Now we're bringing leaders together to say, yes, you're not the one that planned it. We're not trying to plan it. FIFA's doing World Cup. The America's 250 team does that. The NFL does the Super Bowl. My team is saying, you guys are some of the best leaders in your region. Come up with some ideas that are going to take this city to the next level, using the leverage and the launch pad of the investment and the excitement of those big events. And so that's all tied together with virtuous innovation is becoming our outcome innovation piece. And I'm excited about what the future holds. We're going to 25 cities this year, and we just can't be more excited about the leaders that we bring together and our platform that brings all of those conversations right to the forefront, where you can see them and access all of the ideas that these leaders are coming up with all over the world.
That's great. And that actually brings me to one of the other things that I find fascinating about you and your background is, you're an ordained minister, you're a venture-backed founder. So how do faith and capital align or clash, or align and clash, or how do you align them? And just talk to me about that. There's not as many ordained ministers that are venture-backed founders as there are ordained ministers or venture-backed founders. You're kind of marrying the two. So talk to us about that. How do they align, or how do they clash, or how do you pull that off?
Yeah, well, I'll say I have been bivocational, as people talk about it, for my entire career. I mean, I was ordained back as a young guy in my early 20s, and so I have looked at and I was working in a church, and then I started my own church, and I looked at starting that church like a startup company. I literally started the church that I pastored last in my living room in my home, and turned that into a small team of folks who would join the mission. And we said, let's go ahead and build something that would be significant. I mean, frankly, the principles I've used to build companies were the same principles I used to build, whether it's been faith-based ministry or community-based organizing and assistance, to the global philanthropy I've done in countries all around the world, where we've helped with Haiti earthquake relief and Japan tsunami relief, and the clean water crisis all around the world, hunger and food insecurity in countries throughout the globe. To me, you've got to have this mindset that yes, it's bigger than who I am. I've got to serve a mission and a purpose that's bigger than just me. And the principles of integrity, authenticity, humanity are consistent across whether it's going to be at a church type faith based level, a community organizing level, a venture backed 100+ million, many hundreds of millions, $1 billion company, to just having time and space with the people that you love and care about. And so I'm a very consistent person. I mentioned those principles. I have pillars in my life that I build everything I do on. And three of them I'll give you. I mentioned them. Authenticity. You've got to be real. You've got to be somebody that can be tangible, that you are trustworthy around that. I mean, we live in an age right now where everything is it live? Is it Memorex? Is it AI? Is it real? Does it have a watermark? Can we trust it? We don't know. But as a human, I need to be trustworthy. I need to be the real deal. Talk the walk and walk the talk, right? The integrity that we need, that ability to be the person in the dark that you are in front of the light. That's something that's driven me my entire life. But integrity is also strength, right? A foundation. Are you building what you have on a foundation that's going to last, not on shaky ground, not on a landfill, but strong concrete that goes to the roots. And then the last thing is humanity. I mean, the connectivity that people give is something that the best leaders, whether they're going to build a big ministry or you're going to build a big company, if people can't trust you, if folks can't believe that you have the right type of integrity, if they're not motivated by a sense of purpose, then you end up having them flame out and they end up leaving you high and dry and finding a better situation. Or they stay with you and they say, we're going to get in there when the times are great. We're going to celebrate when they're tough. We're going to dig in. We're going to roll our sleeves up. We're going to put our heels in the ground and go further.
That's fantastic. Just listening to you, I'm getting motivated over here. So let me ask you, so if we went 20 years into the future and let's say you're retired now, or you're just working in an advisory capacity, like, how do you want to be remembered? Like, what do you want people to say about you? You talk about the pillars, you talk about helping with global crisis, founding companies, being a good dad, being a good parent, being a visionary, hosting executives, working with big brands, working with all sorts of people. But at the end of the day, when somebody says, oh, Shelton Mercer, man, he made a difference, what do you want him to say next? What do you want him to say about you?
Yeah, you're touching on what is a big passion for me, and that is the word outcomes. I've used that. I use that a lot. I like to be looked at as a man of outcomes. At one point in my life, I embraced this whole, he's a man of action. Man, you get that guy something, he's going to get it done. He's going to MacGyver his way through it, figure it out. And that kind of grit that you need and that type of moxie and the type of initiative to act upon something is important. And certainly a through line through my career is that when there was either an opportunity or there was a necessity, I was a man of action, and I have been. What I've learned over the years that those activities and that action just can't be a series of things that you do, right? There's a through line for me that says, I want to see things change by the virtue that I was here and that my actions had something bigger than just some measurements. It's great to be able to say, hey, look, we hit all of our KPIs, our MRR and our ARR are rising at a hockey stick type of level, that we've raised this type of money, that we've been able to make this type of revenue in these lofty places, that we've been able to have audience with some of the most influential people in the world. That those things are fine. But I've been looking beyond just the next peak in the next height that I could get to. I've been looking toward legacy since I was in my teens. I used to tell my friends, by the time we're 30 years old, we need to be 3 calls away from anybody in the world. By the time we're 40, we need to be 2 calls from anybody in the world. And by the time you're 50, you need to be one call away from anybody in the world, or you should be one of those calls that people want to get to. And that's the type of outcomes I want from my life, is that people can say that because Shelton Mercer was involved, because his passion and vision were here, something changed. And we can look at it 10 years, 25 years, things have changed, things are better, things have improved, people's lives have been improved. We've helped create people who are leaders of companies and leaders of industry. We've helped folks become financially wealthy and independent, financially independent rather. We've helped folks be able to get their purpose, and that is a part for me it's bigger than who I am. It's bigger than my achievements. It's bigger than my accomplishments. But the body of work I want people to say is that because Shelton Mercer was here, this thing changed and transformed, and the world is a better place because that guy realized that things are bigger than his own success and his own ego and his own type of selfishness, and that open life, if you will, created outcomes that are going to change industry, shift and change regions where people live, work, and play. Families, communities are better because organizations are better because I had some touch and some input and hopefully some impact that could last for generations to come.
All right, so I got one question in closing, and I'm going to be fascinated to hear the answer. So, the world's got lots of challenges. There's problems popping up every day. There's solutions, everything. But so when you think about your time and your legacy and your outcomes and the impact, that was another word I kind of took away from my research on you was, man of impact, if you will. So man of action, man of impact, man of outcomes. Like, how do you decide where to put your energy and what to focus on and what to pass on? Because like you can't take everything on. You're one person, you're a strong person, but like, how do you decide I'm gonna take on A, I'm not gonna take on B? Like, how do you make that decision?
Yeah, I think I've learned over my life that you've got to have a strong decision matrix in your in rubric as a leader. When I was younger, you kind of follow the path that where the winds, not where the winds will blow you, but sometimes it's a shiny object. Other times this is a great opportunity. My goodness, look what happens. What I've learned over the years is that the more success you have, the more control you have over your life, frankly, right? Financial success brings that, but so does reputational success. When people know that you stand for these principles, when you've gotten results from things, I'll give a for instance. I have some people in my life that I've worked with for decades now. Some of them, and that I'm dating myself now, but we have worked together. Whether it's them working in projects with me, my legal team, my financial team, are folks that have been in my world for a long time because we've been able to establish results with each other, and those have lasted that go before. So I now have a team around me that helps make decisions. I don't just chase after anything shiny. Certainly, there's some hot things that may catch my eye, but I vet them now with my cabinet, if you will. I have a wonderful team of advisors. Some of them, as I mentioned, have been with me for over a decade and a half, and mentors, and that I trust. And so I take some of those things now and I put them through my decision matrix, which is I'm going to give this to either a small group or subset of my brain trust, and you guys are going to help engineer this for me so we can see, should we take this opportunity. Now, some of it has a kind of formulaic place to it. Is the return on investment going to, we have, and a capital investment is obviously different than a time investment to me. But I am using the type of practicing what I preach, if you will. I'm using the team to consider what the outcomes could be for this. We're looking well into the future so that we can then backtrack and say, what action should we take today, tomorrow, next week, in the next 12 months, so that we get to that outcome that we want, wherever that horizon is. If it's 3 years, 5 years, 7, we want to make sure that we're doing things now that are going to bring that type of outsized outcome down the future. And so my biggest advice for folks is get yourself a strong cabinet of leaders that can come around you, a strong advisory core, your own personal advisory board, if you will. Trust your mentors. If you don't have, I mean, at this level, everybody at this level has had mentors. Lock into those folks. I love it when someone that I have had influence on hits me up and says, "I got a really great opportunity, and I'd love for you to weigh in on objective opinion around this." Right? That's the place where I focus now. We do have some formal things. We've got a family trust set up, and moving toward that kind of place of a family office and all of those things. But I've been using for a decade now some amazing people who guide me through the decisions and who know me, right? And can remind me sometimes, I know you may like that thing, but that principle that you share with us, this seems to violate that. Maybe you want to rethink going after that, Shelton. And so that's just the strength of leaders, is trusting the folks that you've put around you to give you that type of counsel and that sound advice.
All right. Hey, well, today's fearless leader, I think we've got a lot of lessons that we've taken away. The pillars, of authenticity, integrity, humanity, making a difference, raising, Ivy League level kids, being a great dad, working with his kids behind the camera, in front of the camera, just, cowboy Mercer, I think I heard in there at one time, to take off on Beyonce, an ordained minister, venture capital founder, kind of a Renaissance man. Shelton, it's been a joy spending time with you today. If the audience wants to follow you, get in touch with you, learn from you, can you just share with us how they can follow your journey?
Sure. My social handles on Twitter, IG, Facebook as Shelton Mercer, and folks can surely follow that journey. We have some content coming out. We've got a wonderful leadership platform that we're putting out from those roundtables I talked to, that's coming out at the beginning of March. So if you just look up the Shelton Mercer, there's either .com or at my social handles. We love to connect with folks. And certainly looking for great ideas and motivated people who want to join the movement to make sure that outcomes are something that we focus on, not just our activity.
All right. Well, thank you, Shelton. And to our audience, always have the courage to fail, the faith to succeed. Be bold, be fearless, be you. Thank you for today, and thank you for everything you're going to do for us tomorrow.
This has been the Fearless Experience with Brendan P. Keegan. If you want to learn to live and lead fearlessly, go to brendanpkeegan.com.